John, what's your take on everything going on? We haven't spoken with you since the bombing mission that Trump ordered on the nuclear sites in Iran. Give us some thoughts.
The whole world is cheering at the fact that Iran has at the very least, been delayed in achieving a nuclear bomb. Make no mistake, there was a giant sigh of relief, not just in Europe, but in the broader Middle East, including the Saudis, who were really terrified of the prospect. The Israelis proved something, and you alluded to this a moment ago, and properly so, that with a properly planned program, they can be extremely effective. And they were. They decimated the political leadership, the military leadership of Iran, and they did it in their own self-interest. And make no mistake, there is political opposition to Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, but on this point, everyone agrees he did the right thing. Donald Trump, in a sense, came along for the ride. He saw the Israelis getting great credit, and he wanted to be the one who also got credit. And the very simple fact is that the use of bunker buster bombs, no matter whether they succeeded in obliterating, if I can use Donald Trump's term, or whether they simply put a huge dent in what Iran is doing, was viewed by Israelis as a great success. And for Donald Trump, it's a great success as well. He used American military might in an effective, decisive fashion. And this, to me, is going to be a big plus for him.
It was certainly decisive, John, but how effective was it?
We don't know.
Well, let's assume then that the early intelligence on it says, the early intelligence, again, it's preliminary, suggests that it may have sent them back 3, 4, 5 months. Let's say a year. Okay, is that sufficient?
It's not sufficient, but from the Israeli point of view and from the European point of view and from the point of view of Saudi Arabia, they're very grateful. They don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Now, let me tell you the next part of the story, and that is that Donald Trump announced this morning that there would be talks with Iran. That's a major, major moment. Now, whether it evolves into anything, I can't tell you. But the one thing everyone needs to understand is, with or without the United States, the Israelis were prepared to go all the way in terms of securing their future.
Well, it's interesting that you say this, because what I saw in Trump, and I don't want to give him too much credit, but I also, try to be fair. What I saw in Trump when he demanded ceasefire was I saw him cutting Iran a break, because I felt as though he sort of saw Iran on the ropes militarily. The Israelis, as you have correctly suggested, decapitated the military leadership, the political leadership, mostly decapitated, although it's possible that even the top mullah was going to be next, Khomeini. And they're already looking at his successor because he is in hiding.
But he has named 3 potential successors.
But my point is simply, I saw that demand for, now you guys go to your respective corners, the demand for a ceasefire as really a break for Iran, because they were, as I say, taking it hard from the Israelis.
Whether it's a break for Iran or not, I can tell you the Iranian leadership has been decimated. Their ability to move forward as they wanted to is now shattered. It is a decisive victory for Benjamin Netanyahu, who was not particularly popular with many segments of the Israeli population, but the entire opposition to Netanyahu has supported him in this action. What was revealed by Iran's use of ballistic missiles is they didn't care who they targeted. And had they had a nuclear weapon, I just want to remind people that a low-grade nuclear weapon, and I mean low-grade, could immediately, detonated over Tel Aviv, wipe out more than 1 million people. So you have to understand, we have to understand, from Israel's point of view, it's an existential threat. What Donald Trump did is what he wants to do. He wants to be perceived as a decisive, powerful leader who is not only someone who favors peace, but is willing to use decisive strength.
I think that's absolutely true. I think he's about perception. I think he's all about perception. And so you're right. It played very well into his blueprint for being perceived as a strong leader.
NATO was intimidated. Why do you think they're raising their contributions? First of all, they need the United States. NATO is essential to the security of Europe, particularly in the face of Putin and Ukraine, which we aren't even talking about, but should be front page news. And so what happened today with NATO is they said, okay, President Trump, you've demonstrated your power. You're bringing in more money for NATO. We're going to stick with you, and we want you to stick with us. And that way, we are secure. By the way, who's the big loser in all of this? Vladimir Putin, because Putin no longer has firm allies in the Middle East who can defend him. Do you realize what the Israelis did? And you spoke about this a moment ago. Don't think I don't listen to you, Mark Thompson. The destruction of Hezbollah, the destruction of Hamas, the destruction of Islamic Jihad, the decimating of the Iranian political leadership, the crippling of the Houthis. All of this was accomplished because of Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israelis. It's not to America's credit. And the Israelis said very clearly, we are not going to go quietly. We are going to do what we have to do. Our survival matters to us more than anything else. And they acted decisively. And with Donald Trump tagging along, it's simply the icing on the cake.
This is interesting from Zero Sum. Trump wants Israel off Iran's back. He's helping Putin. Trump is. Putin needs the weapons, the resupplying from Iran, or he's done in Ukraine. You kind of hinted at a part of this in your last response. You want to comment on this, John?
Yes. Russia is a third world power, except that it has a nuclear capability. And every time that Vladimir Putin rattles that nuclear threat, the world has to sit up and take notice. Who is breathing a huge sigh of relief? Poland, Lithuania, Estonia. They all understood the danger of Putin. Has Putin been tamed? No. But has his alliances, his effectiveness been curtailed? I believe the answer is yes.
So you kind of agree with the notion that Iran was supplying the drones and supplying the some of the weaponry that Putin was depending on.
We know that for sure.
To prosecute his war.
We know that for sure. So the bottom line is the world a safer place today than it was a week ago? I believe the answer is yes. Do I give Donald Trump credit? Yes. But not for anything particularly decisive, except making the decision to join with the Israelis who were already triumphant. So whether or not the Iranian program is permanently crippled or not, the United States is now firmly aligned with Israel against Iran. Now, let me point something else out to you that I think is critical, that in the next few weeks and months, we are going to see what kind of retaliation Iran or lone wolves perform. There is a real fear in the American intelligence community of lone wolf actions. And I want to remind everybody that that is completely possible, and some have suggested to me entirely probable.
Well, let me just follow up on that then in relation to the Iran talks. If you actually have Iran sitting down and there's some kind of peace talk being crafted, there's some kind of peace agreement being crafted, there's really some kind of reconstitution of Iranian leadership and their disposition toward terror, et cetera. I mean, these are all judgments that the West can make and that the Middle East community can make and those who are party to these talks can make. But if that's happening, and then you have these one-offs, you have these lone wolf things that are essentially sponsored by Iran or in league with Iran, wouldn't that derail those talks you're talking about?
Well, that's exactly what happened when the accords between Israel and the PLO. Israel and the PLO signed an accord in September of 1993, which theoretically ended conflict. You just have to read the text of the letter that Rabin and Arafat that they exchanged. But lone wolves, and I might add radicals, including Hamas, completely derailed the Oslo process. So there's a lot.
I would even say that October 7th was a response to what was likely a warming of relations between a lot of the Middle Eastern, a handful of Middle Eastern nations and Israel.
You're correct.
And, yeah.
You're right. Saudi Arabia.
But that wasn't a lone wolf move. That was a Hamas move and sponsored in part. In fact, Iran certainly knew about it.
Oh, you're right. 100%. No dispute.
So as we move forward, John, first of all, as much as Iran has been diminished militarily, they're definitely on their heels, and there are any number of maybe good outcomes that could come from that. Uh, I'm wondering about Israel in the eyes of the world. Gaza, the specter of everything that's happened to Palestinians in Gaza, uh, the West Bank issues in Israel. I mean, you know these issues well. I think has a troubled image in the world because of Netanyahu, because of what is viewed really as a bloodthirsty policy in Gaza. Even as he roots out Hamas and even as he's diminished Hamas, the human toll has been immense.
I would suggest respectfully that Israel's image in the world, even before Gaza and long before Netanyahu, was not a favorable image. Rabin did not become an icon until he was killed. I want to point that out to you, that it was Rabin who talked about crushing the bones, breaking the bones of the West Bank Arab who opposed him. So my sense is the Israelis, frankly, don't give a toot about what the world thinks of their image. Their determination is to survive. And what was the lesson that Israel learned in the last few weeks? That they were vulnerable, that the world did not stand up to protect them, that the only way they were able to defend themselves was through their own wit and will, their own armaments. And in the end, when the United States tagged along on the Iranian nuclear issue, they were thrilled. My sense is that no matter what Israel does, most of the world will condemn them. And so they're put in the position of saying, we're going to take care of ourselves first. And that's the right thing for them to do.
And John, let's go to Iran, because Iran, as we've said, and these reports of what will likely be a different kind of nuclear enrichment that they will do in pursuit of this weaponry. I mean, if it really only set their program back 3 to 6 months, even if it was a year, even if it was 18 months, they're still back on track. And let me just note quickly, there were certain parts of the Obama nuclear deal that he made. The deal had so much good stuff, though, with Iran. There were inspectors. All of their uranium had to be taken out of the country. I mean, there was so much good that Trump tore that deal up because it had Obama's name on it is still one of the huge problems that he has now. And he's trying to put together a deal that would look like Obama's. I mean, it's almost comical were it not be so serious. Yeah.
But you understand.
But I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, but what my question is, so that their program set back a year or 18 months or just 6 months or 3 months, we don't know what it is. My question is, aren't they still in the same place where they realize, wow, we have to have nukes, otherwise we're going to be dealing with this every few years?
And the Israelis understand that preventing them from having nukes is a top national priority, no matter who is prime minister, which is why the conflict will be an enduring conflict, not something that can be resolved. So I say this, but I also want to point out, listen to Donald Trump blast Obama. Listen to him blast Biden. Anything with the name Obama or Biden on it, he's opposed to. And I've never, speaking now as a presidential historian, I have never heard a former president of the United States attack a predecessor as Donald Trump continues to do. And by the way, so does Pete Hegseth, and so does Marco Rubio.
Well, those are talking points. They're absolutely talking points that are constantly visited. Yeah,
it's terrible.
Pervasive. That's right.
It's terrible. And let me point out, in talking about all of this, we're losing sight of that great, big, beautiful bill. They are talking about selling off property of the United States that's now in national parks. They're talking about building roads through national parks. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is wreaking havoc on the vaccine front. You can go down the list. It is not just foreign policy here. It is what Donald Trump is doing to the nation. And that's what disturbs me greatly.
I love that you brought this up, and let me just button that out by asking you, is there a wag the dog quality to what Trump did, or was it all just he wanted to get his name on this? Was it a chance to distract from some of that which you just talked about?
Both. They are not mutually exclusive. And that should disturb all Americans. Look, when Trump does something right, I'm willing to give him credit. The Abraham Accords, I happen to agree with taking out the nuclear facility at Fordo. I mean, I have no problem with that. But there is so much wrong with what Donald Trump is doing. You know, I made a comment the other day in a talk comparing Trump and Nixon, which is not really a fair comparison because Nixon was a much better person in many ways. But Nixon deserves credit for things that he did: the war on cancer, the Environmental Protection Agency, well, you can go down the list. But it didn't obviate, that's a ding word, it did not obviate the evil that he did. And what Donald Trump is doing, and I want to be very careful about this. On the radio with you, Mark, I always try to be very fair. Where Donald Trump does something I agree with, he deserves credit. But that does not take away what he is doing with American policy on so many different levels. I look at the Kennedy Center as someone who's very concerned about the arts, his distortion of the arts program, I mean, you can go down the list, but I'm not going to do that.
I mean, the one, speaking of lists, the one thing that Nixon and Trump had in common is an enemies list. And the difference between the two is that Trump is going after those who he perceives as enemies with a zeal and I would suggest a lawlessness, you know, turning the Justice Department on his political rivals. I mean, that is just
and did you hear them this morning? Do you hear him this morning blasting CNN and the New York Times?
Yeah, I mean, but let me just say, John, and again, I'm not speaking in defense of Trump but you know this better than anyone as a presidential historian. Since the beginning of the press and media and relationships with presidents have hated the press. You know, the press misrepresents my positions, the press misrepresents my policy, et cetera. We've heard that since the beginning of, as I say, the beginning
George
of the printed
Washington.
word. Yeah, but what Trump is doing is he has as I suggest, pursued a jihad against the press.
Weaponized.
That you have the press caving, and now you have the press completely sucking up to him in ways that bend their coverage in favor of the current administration.
It's
scary.
Yeah. No, it's scary and it's wrong, and it's not American democracy.
Now I want to talk quickly. I only have you for another minute or so.
What?
I want to talk to you
about... I don't know why you
keep
shorting me. Go ahead.
I want to talk to you about the immigration situation.
Oh, it's terrible.
I'm of the feeling that there was a conflation of the problem at the border with, we did have a border problem, southern border, and Trump pointed to the southern border. Fox News was at the southern border. So was other conventional newscasts, and showing the stream of people coming into America through the southern border. Once you've taken care of the southern border situation, now you have these thugs on the street who claim to be ICE, claim to be feds. Most of them aren't. They're kind of militia. They're bounty. Some of them are ICE. Some of them are ICE with Marines behind them in LA. And they are picking up everybody who has a weed whacker or is waiting to work for the day at Home Depot. It is pathetic. It is unbelievable. And they are deporting people who've been in this country for decades. I mean, 50 years. They just deported somebody, arrested this guy. He's been in the country 50 years. He has grandchildren here. And he has been law-abiding for that entire time, paying taxes. I wonder if you could weigh in on this policy and what could possibly be done.
Well, I agree with you 100%. The only way to stop them is through the courts. And you understand that the lower courts seem to be ruling in the right way. The Supreme Court, on the other hand, as in a ruling this week, which was only 3 liberals opposing him, it's an amazing distortion of American justice. And when Donald Trump is gone, we will have to see that corrected. But I agree with everything you've said. I hear it from people all the time. Very good friend of mine asked me, who is Hispanic, what did I recommend? I said, carry your passport or your papers with you everywhere you go. Not that it will necessarily do you any good.
Well, exactly. I mean, they are trying to correct for the administrative errors that they've made. Remember the latest one, there's a series of administrative errors. We're trying to get that man back from, I believe he's in El Salvador right now. In
El
that
Salvador
max,
prison.
In that max
Wait, but you heard the Supreme Court said that if the Trump administration rounds you up, they can deport you not to your country of origin. They can send you, only 3 liberals on the court said no. All the others agreed that you can be deported to a country not of your origin.
This is a kidnapping.
It's shocking.
It's a kind of human trafficking. It's
Can you imagine deporting somebody to Libya, for instance? Which is
Libya, Sudan. I mean, Sudan has been declared unsafe for anyone except the most essential workers. And we're going to deport people there who are from Mexico. They're from Guadalajara or something.
Mark,
it's
you and
absolutely
I agree on
outrageous.
This. You and I agree on this completely. I know we have not talked about the election in New York City. That is another
Give me 30 seconds on this guy. He is a true socialist, a legit socialist, and he wants to, in a socialist way, say, I want to tax the rich, make public transportation affordable, and make housing affordable in this. By the way, he wants to make public transportation free in New York, and he wants to make housing affordable as well in a city which is notorious for housing being unaffordable.
Listen, we're confronting so many different issues, and you give me so little time that I'm ashamed of you. But wait, I have to ask you, do we have a date on Friday night?
We have a date on Thursday night, tomorrow night. You better adjust your calendar. Thursday night at 6:30. John Rothmann will be part of June.
I have my calendar right here. You're on the wrong date. I had you for Friday.
Well, everybody's going to be there on Thursday. So yeah.
What time?
It's at 6:30 Pacific time, sir. Okay.
Are we going to be able to talk issues?
We're going to talk issues. We're going to talk whatever people want to talk about, and we've got a 2-hour window, so you should show up early, and you'll be able to have all the time you need. It's our June Swoon virtual meetup. It is
everything. Just
June 26th.
Make sure that your massive, well overpaid staff sends me the link.
Yeah, Kim has to send you the link. She will do that. And
let me tell you, Kim is wonderful. May I just
next time I want to follow up on the mayor of New York. By the way, he's no friend of Israel, as you know.
No, he is not.
Yeah. And
may I just say, Kim's daughter is at this moment on the experience of a lifetime in Germany. And I want you to tell your daughter that we wish her every success. I know she's going to have a wonderful experience. And Kim, I can't wait to hear all about it. But give her my love and tell her it's great.
Oh,
I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
I have a picture taken with Kim's darling daughter, which I treasure.
Yeah. She is terrific. And
Kim, how are you?
I can't wait until she gets into the workforce and she can join this show.
It'd be a great interview. I'd love to hear her impression.
I'd like to replace her mom with her daughter, who will work at half the money, which is the best part.
Hey, Kim, did you hear that? Mum's the word.
All right. So stay in touch. We'll see you tomorrow night. John Rothmann.
Thank you so much. Oh, support the show.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.